What is really good? It is. I don't watch the Super Bowl anymore, but it is Super Bowl Sunday. So I know there's quite a few of you who are going to watch this. Maybe record it later on because yes, the Super Bowl is. And there's a lot of people who are Los Angeles Rams fans because we're so close to LA. So hopefully your team wins. If it doesn't, then life will go on anyway.
Well done on the intro, sir.
I mean, hey, we try every now and then. We try. Yeah. So this is the Legion of Pedagogical Supervillains. As always, I am joined with the homie Webbs. What's good?
I too am not a watcher of the Super Bowl. Personally, there was a time where I wanted to be an NFL referee.
Interesting.
That time is long gone. Yeah, I became super hyper focused on learning all of the rules of football, and I had like my little book, and I was determined to become an NFL referee. Not because I really had any interest in football, just I don't know. That was the thing I got fixated on for a while.
Interesting.
As you can see, it did not happen. And now that I've learned more about football and the repercussions of playing football, I have moral and ethical concerns with the sport. And if it went away forever, I wouldn't be sad.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about infusing your courses with creativity, and we're not talking about you being creative with your course, but allowing your learners to be creative and flexing their creativity with it, and some tools and some strategies for you doing that inside your Canvas course, because it's called Canvas, as in blank canvas, as we want our learners to fill in their artistic depictions of the things that they've learned and mastered, not only for their own sake, but for to be able to share those things with the world and with their classes and with the greater community at your school as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. Should be an interesting conversation. We tend to creativity is one of our fortes, I think, Webb. So I think this is going to be an interesting one tonight. Yeah, so it'll be interesting if nothing else. But if you're a Clark County School District teacher, we're going to utilize Adobe Creative Express. That is the tool that you have, full premium access to. All your learners have full premium access to as well. We're going to do a little bit of Canvas and a little bit of prodding you, hopefully, to go and experiment with Adobe Creative Express, but also two other tools we'll kind of show you. Canva, which I think is rivaling in popularity. at least because of its relative low cost. And I think it's also free for teachers now. I believe they have a Canva for educators. You can set your class up and stuff. A little bit more work on your behalf because Clark County already does that for you. It binds those students to you. It gives them the ability to do that already. But if you were to use Canva, you would have to enroll your students and stuff like that. So it'd be a little bit of extra work on your behalf. So, and then there's another tool I'm going to look at, show you, and then photography. It's going to start getting really cool outside. And by cool outside, I mean in terms of plant life returning, colors being outside. You want to take photos, and this is the if you don't have iPads, it kind of blows having Chromebooks. Um, I'm laughing about some I sent webs earlier today, but yes, kids can do this on their phone as well. So it's another thing that can be done. So webs, as always, we'll start with our letter to the editor and kind of like pose to your question from kind of the edu space to prove that it is a skill or a concept that translates rather into the professional space. And today, since we were talking a lot about creativity, I think oftentimes in class we look at creative expression, visual arts, um, any of the creative arts, dance, singing stuff as waste of time, as auxiliary activities for students in school because they're not part and parcel part of the math, ELA, science. I guess you added as kind of an addendum to that as well. In your job as a software developer, has the ability to create graphically and visually, has that impacted positively your ability to do your job at all?
Oh yeah, definitely. um I have found from my experience that the projects where I put especially visual creativity into it tend to be communicated and received better by my audience. Because I think ultimately being able to create things like that is also a skill of communication. And so much of what we do in any job is communication. So I'm specifically thinking about we had a situation last year. I was on a client, and my team needed to communicate to the teams that we served this new process. And so we had tried just text, hey, this is the new process. Here's how it's going to go. Steps one, two, three. And we found that adoption of that new process was slow, if not non existent. So I said, what if we did a PSA? What if we made a short little 2-minute video that highlights all the important things that are key? And we can post that video every week at the beginning of every week. So if new people have to like enroll or like onboard to our system, they have that as reference.
Mm.
And so I spent a decent chunk of time creating this little PSA with pairing with one of my colleagues, put it all together. It was a video. And shared it with the team. They really liked it. Shared it out with the teams that we communicate with. And it slowly rose to one of the most viewed videos in the organization because not only was it useful, it was a lot more engaging and memorable than just seeing steps one, two, three. So I think that being able to communicate in a creative way, because not only is that creativity like visually you want it to be appealing, because things that aren't visually appealing are distracting, so it's going to be counter to what you're trying to achieve, but also it was memorable. It elevated and solved a problem. So not only was I creative in like the actual content that I made, but there was a creativity to how to solve the problem as well, and I could offer that as a solution because I had those skills.
Mm.
And I've done the same thing creating like infographics for different ideas that people can then take and share. Because there's a YouTube video I saw a while back about like your keystrokes are your most precious resource. So instead of repeating things to people over and over again, create a document that you can then refer people to. And so you've now created it once and you can just refer people back to it or send it or whatever, instead of constantly typing up the same thing every time you want to tell that same information to people.
Absolutely. I think that that's very interesting because again, it's been my experience in classrooms in school where it is like the art stuff is the fun stuff that we do when we have some time for it, maybe, or it's Friday, let's just do some random stuff that you can go and cut out the butterflies or whatever it is. um it really, like, the visual arts, graphic arts, things like that are not part and parcel integrated into the expectations of coursework that are not classes that are visual arts classes, right? When we're dealing with mathematics, we're dealing with mathematics. We're dealing with ELA. It is reading and writing and stuff. It's not seen as a valuable exercise in classrooms generally, right?
It's
So if you were
extra.
exactly right, so if you were someone who was, I guess, a recruiter of some sort, right? Would the ability to express yourself creatively in that manner, would that make a applicant appealing to you as a software developer, and why?
I think it would definitely make people stand out. So I'm thinking about, I applied when I left education. I went into being an instructional designer, and one of the jobs that I applied for, you had to you had to do instructions for how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I think it was. And because it was an instructional designer course, right? So they wanted to see that you knew how to give instructions. So my extra weird self decided to do my peanut butter and jelly instructions in the form of a sports commentators at a sporting event. And it was like a peanut butter and jelly making competition. And so I did the old trick where like I played every character and I had different wigs and costumes and things and whatever. And so and I said that's what I submitted. And when I did my interview, they were like, "Yeah, your video definitely got our attention." It was way different and out there because my thought was I'm going to be who I am, and if that doesn't work, I think it's an instant way to tell if you're going to have, or I don't want to say instant because maybe sometimes that's not the case, but a lot of times it tells you who a person is, and it really conveys authenticity. If you're able to express yourself in whatever it is they're asking you to create, it expresses an authenticity that gives you a fairly good idea of who that person's going to be.
Oh, okay. Well, I think that's a fair assessment there. I mean, I always thought that I have always thought that even though I love reading, that people are long winded generally. When, like, you could be like, what TLDR is the thing now, right? Like, just get to the point, fam. I don't need to read 2,000 pages for you to tell me the gist of what you're trying to convey to me, right? And I think that was always the attraction with creating things that are visual, is that if you make something that's visual but is also complicated and busy, no one pays attention to it, just like that novel. But if you make something clean that's succinct, concise, and beautiful, then people take notice of it, right? And it's something that really, like, I mean, you can see behind my head the sneakers poster, and then right next to that, I've got the sneakers posters directly behind my head. I've got the all of the Avengers teams to the left of that, so that's every Avengers team from the beginning. And it's just small little icons for each of them, and then right next to that is the history of video game controllers. I love posters like that kind of like very easily inform you. They're informative, they're pretty, and they're not reading a 3,000 page book, that which would be the essentially the translation of what that graphic gives me into into language form, right? But again, I think that skill is demeaned by mainstream education. We want you to be able to write the 5 paragraph essay. We don't want you to be able to take that same 5 paragraph essay and create an infographic. It's going to be far easier for me to understand.
The main medium for my profession is the PowerPoint slide deck. And the number of PowerPoint slide decks I see that are like War and Peace kind of situation. I've introduced the idea of a lookbook, and I always ask people, are we making this slide deck for self consumption, for self directed consumption, or are we making it for a presentation? Because the approach to those two things is very different.
Mm,
The approach to self-directed is going to have a little bit more text. It's going to be structured more like a picture book. Whereas the approach to presenting it is going to have far less text and be more image focused. So, and yet it's very clear that those skills are not a common literacy amongst the people that I am exposed to in my profession, because more often than not, the slide decks that are presented to people tend to be very text heavy, very War and Peace, not a lot of images, um, super serious. But I think you can, even that, you can be super serious and still make a beautiful presentation that people can consume. And there's literature behind this. Like I did a whole tweet, and I think I even have a blog post on my Webs on the Webs website about how that type of structure causes cognitive overload. And so people, not only you're like doing a detriment to your message by death by PowerPoint. And it's just wild to me that in the year 2022 we still have death by PowerPoint happening.
I mean, but when do you teach that? Like when and what point of school are you taught this is how an infographic could look? This is how you create a slide deck. It is just that is never something that you are taught how to do. So unless you
It
happen upon it, it doesn't happen.
I think a lot of teachers are missing that skill. Like I know I paired with my art teacher at my school to integrate, like we paired to be able to do she covered the principles of design, and then I took that and applied it to how to design slide decks. I forget what grade I was working with when we did that. But yeah, I think a lot of teachers are even missing the skill. So you can't teach what you don't know.
And that's where I mean, word to Nancy Duarte, Slideology. If you don't have that book in your professional library, it's one of those to get. She's super sharp, and it's like it's
Yeah.
very good content. It is a. I'm just gonna share my screen real quick.
Resonate is another book of hers that's really good.
So this is one that I refer to all the time. Um, and it's not if you have a scenario in which I will say this and I will say it confidently. Um, if you can't uh, distill your message on a slide to one sentence, then yeah, that's something that has to be able to be done. Generally, I think beautiful images with smart design trumps it makes you look even wiser than you are if you're able to design things in a sleek, simple way. If I have to write War and Peace on the slide, then to me, it's like, first of all, I'm not paying attention to all the stuff you have on the slide anyway. Um, Second of all, we have tools now that you could, instead of doing all that webs, we can embed audio in the slide. So if I needed to add anything else, you can listen to my voice. I can record myself walking you through what I'm talking about if I needed to have more words than that. But one of the things that as an instructor I hated and I really dissuaded students from doing is if it's not Pecha Kucha, if it's not 20 seconds per slide, we can just go through the thing and not 20 seconds as if you have, you know, three paragraphs on the slide and you like hurry through them in 20 seconds. But it's not some image that gets my attention and then you're able to articulate why this image goes with the narrative that you're presenting to us, then yeah, that's a problem. But as we've already stated, students are that we are harping on can you write 5 paragraph essays? Which I'm not saying don't teach the 5 paragraph essay. Webs, is that a skill you still need? Okay, yes, perhaps. But is it equally or more important to be able to put together a presentation that's visually striking, that's convincing, and it's clever? I think in our day and age, that is far better use of your skill and your time.
Agreed.
Outside of college, because college professors still want you to write the archaic five, the 5 page
Yeah. I
paper.
mean, in my job, I don't think I've ever had to write a 5 paragraph essay, but I consistently have to make infographics and find new ways of conveying information quickly. Because especially when you get to where you're conveying information to like C suite executives, the executive summary is 1 page. That's all you have. And they're not going to read a 5 paragraph essay. They want bullet points, they want visuals, they want charts and graphs. They do not want a 5 paragraph essay.
Big fact. Who has time to be reading all that? Like, I mean, I did the job for 18 years. Unless you're going to spend your entire weekend going through paper after paper, many of which, and as someone who had a particular talent with this, when someone said I had to write a 5 paragraph essay, I'm like, oh, word, fam, I got the formula. B. You're going to get the driest, most boringest thing, and I'm going to rehash the same thing over and over again. If I need to stretch sentences out, I'm going to either cut sentences in half to stretch them. We're gonna, like if if something has gotten so formulaic that we have countermeasures to your 5 paragraph essay, it's a problem.
Okay, so I am taking an instructional design class for my PhD studies right now. And my last 2 assignments have been outlines. He didn't even want a paper, he just wanted an outline. This time, we also had to include a 250-word explanation of comparing 2 different models. That's it. That's all we had that's basically a paragraph, 250 words. So even in PhD level courses, they're asking you to shorten things. You have to learn to be more concise.
No one got time for that, man.
Mm-mm.
But yeah, so it is what it is. But again, I am a huge proponent, and sounds like Webs is as well, forcing people to express themselves graphically with images, with pictures, by playing around with different concepts and things like that. And students, especially students who have the students who are children of the internet, right? And that doesn't really, it doesn't describe every child now, but kids who are on TikTok, kids who are watching YouTube videos, these are kids who are going to want to create, and YouTube videos are not 5 paragraph essays. You have, really cool edits. You've got people who are very clever in the way they deliver information. You've got all kind of weird ways that people convey information to people. I mean, it's really, really, really cool. But we take that out of the classroom, Webs.
And I think the interesting thing about that is those most clever videos are often backed up by scripts, very thorough scripts that have been written and rewritten and rewritten. But it takes that script and then elevates it even further and forces you to present it in a different medium. And I actually think that making a video is much more challenging than just writing that 5 paragraph essay. I feel like the 5 paragraph essay is where we stop, when in fact, if we really want to elevate and challenge students, it's moving into video or photograph essays or podcasts, something that provides that extra medium that's actually going to get consumed.
Big facts. Now, that being said, generally this is how I deal with this part, because you kind of get this like, okay, that's fine and dandy, but how do I start down that road? And first of all, first and foremost, it's, you don't have to know all the things. That's my first thing. I usually, when I'm sitting with teachers, but I don't know how to do that. That's totally fine. Your students, because they're consumers of these mediums, lots of those kids already have the skills necessary. They just need permission to use them. One of the best things finishing out my career middle school was that first month of school. We had kids who didn't bring their Chromebook. We had students who didn't have their Chromebooks charged, etc. And it was simply like, that's great. You have a phone. Oh yeah, I can use my phone. Yeah, you can use your phone. You can take pictures with your phone. You can edit with your phone. You know you know the those students know the apps on their phone far better than I would, and the ability to create with those apps on the phone, right? It's also something else that was really, and I'm wondering if other teachers noticed this. One of the things that was very interesting to me, Webs, in the classroom was I would generally every period say, "How many of you have TikTok accounts?" You would almost have like it would be pretty close to 100% in every class. Now, how many of you create content for TikTok? And that percentage is maybe 20% in the classroom, 20 to 25%. Very, very, there weren't a lot of creators. They were people who were voyeuristic on the app, right? They were looking at what was going on, but they weren't actually contributing to the actual platform, which was very interesting to me. And so as we started to build projects, it was almost as if they were given permission to be a creator. And so you had students by the time I left where they were like, "Hey, Mister, can you look at my dance video on TikTok?" And I was like, "I thought you don't make stuff on TikTok." "Oh, I decided to make one." And you look at it and you're like, "This is really cool. That's awesome." Download that and then upload it into our Canvas course so other people can see you dance and stuff. So I think that a lot of times some of the reticence for students to be creative in the classroom comes from the fact that when they come to school, that is not an inherently creative place. It's almost like this they become a different person than they would in another environment.
Yeah, I think the context makes all the difference. That and this idea that it has to be perfect the first time instead of iterating on it. So, this idea that like if I can't come onto it and immediately have somebody watch like, 10,000 views or whatever, then I've failed somehow. Shifting that focus to creating for yourself, I think, is a big lesson to be learned. And then going back to your point about teachers not having to know all the things, one of the things I did when I was a third grade teacher is we did student organized learning groups where they would pick their question, they'd research it, they'd create a poster on it because this was, we weren't quite there to where we were doing digital things just yet. Plus, I gave them the option. But anyway, that's not important. The point being that they would have to then share that poster with the class or keynote or whatever, um, and then get feedback on it. So it also gave me an opportunity to think critically about what feedback would I give them and allowing them to make the mistake. So as I walked around and watched my students creating their posters, yeah, I saw groups that were deciding to write their poster in all pencil. And I knew how that was going to end. And I let them do it anyway, because then when we got to feedback, it was, okay, what are some things that you think could be improved the next time? Well, we noticed it's really hard to see our letters from far away because we wrote it in pencil. Okay, so what would you change? Or we wrote it too small, or we crammed too many letters together, so we should probably measure next time.
Mm.
So they learned these lessons themselves by reflecting on their work and critiquing it and critiquing each other's work and looking at each other's work and going, "Ooh, I like that. I can use that next time. Oh, this group did bubble letters. I want to do bubble letters next time. This group did a PowerPoint. It makes things a lot easier when all I have to do is type it and resize the font instead of trying to hand write out what my poster looks like." So you don't have to know everything. You just have to present the opportunity for them to reflect on their own work and receive feedback from other people in class.
Well, the smartest person in the room is the room, right? And so having a situation, and this is again where this in person, in person, in person, in person, and you're like, okay, in person school is fine. Again, I'm not. It's a yes and for me. There has to be a hybrid of when we're in person school, you have to archive the things that are happening in class because there are going to be students who don't get things the first time. You're gonna have kids who are quiet in the class who don't want to speak up. They would rather type their information into a spot. But you have to be able to have an archive of the feedback that people received, ideas that other people had, the voice from the kid that's on vacation in Mount Charleston. One of the things that was the dopest thing in remote learning for me was I was teaching a third grade class and had a young lady who was in her car while we were in class, and they were driving up to Mount Charleston. And so as she's driving, she's talking and stuff like that. It was like, yeah, my mom decided to go to Mount Charleston and stuff. And she's like, you guys want to see like what it looks like going up Mount Charleston? Now, these are a lot of students who had never been to Mount Charleston before. She sits her phone out, and we're watching the car go up the mountain and stuff. And we're like, is it getting colder? Is it getting? Kids are asking questions. So that's super cool. Why are you going? What are you going to do? Da, da, da. And you have this really cool interaction between someone who was not physically with any of other students, but was able to share an experience in real time with students that got other students excited about, can me and my mom go to Mount Charleston? How far is Mount Charleston from our school? Is it possible for us to do a field trip to Mount Charleston? All of these questions started to become generated from that. Kids started Googling, hey, Mr. Lang, can you put a picture of Mount Charleston on your screen and share it with everybody? Cool, here it is, whatever. All right, cool. What are some things that we see? Are there any animals in Mount Charleston? I don't know. Somebody Googled the animals. Hey, this is on there. That's not on there. I wish really, really, really cool things that we were able, because that class was recorded, we were able to have an archive of, if a student want to go back and say, what questions were asked in that session, was, whatever, who was there, who wasn't there, that can be referred back to. But if you're having conversations in real time, those things don't exist if no one is using an archival tool, an archival method that is going to be, and this is the key, that is going to be accurate, right? Not someone taking hand notes, that's scribbling and whatever and trying to keep up with people, but I am inputting my question, my comment, etc., into the discussions page in the Canvas that is written and authored by me. This is my words that I am authoring, and there's no complication or an option for people not to understand where I'm coming from. Go ahead, Webs.
It's also a great opportunity for knowledge building, like co-building of knowledge. So, one of the knowledge building is a big topic in learning sciences. That's what my PhD is in. And we talk a lot about how knowledge building comes from not only uncovering knowledge that already had existed that the people involved just didn't know about before, but also it comes from asking clarifying questions, making sure that you understand a certain point, asking questions that extend the investigation that you're doing. And that knowledge building can also serve another purpose, which is to build community. I just posted on our website, theintelligenthoodlums.com, an article about using community cohesion as a method to improve the engagement and experience for your students in your Canvas courses, specifically targeting the discussion aspect. So you have that archival nature that you talked about, and then in addition to that, you're actively building knowledge and recording it, and that's going to improve like engagement and participation within your class, because students feel like they're part of something bigger because they're working on co-building that knowledge.
Big facts, big facts. Also, I mean, you're not alone then, right? There's also this situation in which, if you're someone who's not a uber vocal person. I am an introverted person. Sometimes people can't tell that for some reason. I'm a very introverted person. I like to communicate when I like to communicate, how I like to communicate. By only making it possible for someone to share orally, you are cutting out a lot of voices and a lot of knowledge in the classroom that could improve people's prototypes a lot quicker, who could help other individuals. You're also saying if your English is not your first language, then perhaps you don't matter, right? Being able to have those things archived digitally, so for someone to be able to translate those things later on, is also again part of equity. For you only to be able to communicate in English or whatever language happens to be the dominant language in the space, and also again you're talking about people who are differently able. If I have a hearing aid, or I have some other auditory issues, you're also now telling me that my ability to communicate with you is impacted, and that's not a priority. And I think that a lot of times in classrooms we complicate the differentiation thing from the perspective of skills, right, rather than access. Will this group of individuals be able to access the materials that are presented or the tasks that are presented and not from a skills perspective, but from an equity lens, from a, again, my EL friends, are individuals who may have be differently abled, um, are individuals who, again, are chronically absent. And this is a factual thing. This is not a situation. All your students are not going to be at school all the time. You might be somebody who's chronically absent because of mitigating circumstances as well, right? So, being able to make the classroom a more equitable space by archiving, I think, hopefully was one of the things that was demonstrated through that pandemic learning. All right, so Webbs, we about halfway through the show. Let's get to the hustle. All right. So here is, as always, this is again the free version of Canvas, the free version, and I am going to again reinforce my personal preference of discussion pages are the most dynamic pages inside of Canvas because again the archival nature of the pages. Any other page is not going to have. So if I click module, I'm just going to give this module a name. Let me call this Adobe, not Adobe, Creative Express. Even though that's not what we're going to be dealing with the whole time. All right, cool. So for those who are like super new to Canvas, there are a number of different pages. There are quizzes, files, there's a regular page, discussion, text headers, external URLs, external tools. They're generally set up the same way. However, if I choose a regular page here, and I'm just going to call this intro. Now I go into this page, and I'm going to edit it and just say, I hate that so much. All right, so I'm going to save and publish. You will notice there's no place naturally or by default for any learner to interact with that page. I would have to build interaction into the page, which makes that not an attractive page for me. If a kid had a question about the introduction or anything like that, I would have no idea other than if the kid walked up to your desk or stopped you and said, okay, we read the introduction, Mr. Lang. I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't get this. So I would dissuade you very much from using the regular pages for information if you can get away with it. Because if you use the discussions, we've already done a show kind of just based on discussions. By default, your learner has the ability to reply. So if there are questions, and goes back to like the teacher one-on-one type stuff where they start telling you about parking lots and having kids write questions on the thing and walking up. Like, this gives you the ability to avoid the parking lot because the kid can, if I have a question, I can ask the question in real time right on the page. And I can go back after I'm finished discussing or talking or whatever and go through. And you also are empowering the learner here, Webbs, where another learner can answer somebody else's question without teacher person have to intervene at all. If kid X see kids Y's question and says, no, I absolutely positively have resources on the difference between a brontosaurus and a tyrannosaurus rex. Here's a link that I use for my project. That's something I don't have to deal with. But if I remove that function, then suddenly teacher as the only person who can answer questions is what creeps back into the scenario. Go ahead, Webbs.
I'd argue too that even if a kid is wrong in their answer to the kid who asked the question, it brings to the surface some misconceptions kids have and gives the teacher an opportunity to adjust course on those misconceptions. Whereas if it's a one-way window where like you can only post information and kids don't have the ability to communicate back and forth and laterally, then you're really missing out on opportunities to for formative assessment.
Big facts. All right. Also, again, fundamentally, the discussion page does exactly what the regular page does anyway. So you're not losing any function. So again, save yourself some time. Use the discussion pages as the default page for your course because it's going to give you the ability, again, to solve problems. The other thing, Webbs, is making sure that you use the tabs, because the tabs are going to give you the ability, if you need to have more information, you don't need to write War and Peace, so I got to scroll all the way down. What I can go and put those tabs, or put the information I need you to be able to do in 5 different steps or 4 different steps or whatever it is. But for right now, we'll get rid of all that. We're gonna do like a demo project. So all right, cool. Um, we're gonna say the following: who would they see? We've been reading about let's go with somebody really cool. Let's use
Oh, I thought you were gonna do the Mount Charleston thing.
uh we've been reading about, it's Black History Month, so let's go with who'd be a dope Black History person to do it. Let's go Harriet Tubman, just because most people are gonna know who Harriet Tubman is. About Harriet Tubman. Your task for today is to create a concert ticket for a band that you think Harriet might enjoy. Use your notebook notes, your web resources, and your classmates. Classmates, that's how you feel.
I immediately thought of the theme to Wonder Woman for some reason.
Interesting. That's concert city, or let's say concert poster. Let's say poster because that'll give it. Let's say poster. All right, cool. So fundamentally, a lot more brain cells are going to be necessary for you to build this thing. It doesn't. It's not going to flex your noun verb agreement hustle, but it is going to flex that. Even though the right brain doesn't exist, the right brain kind of idea, but you're still going to be utilizing all of the factual information, everybody, etc. If we were doing this as an actual task, I might have a graphic organizer for students to kind of just write down, script their stuff down or whatever. But since we're doing this in the moment webs, let's roll with it. The other really cool thing about this is that I'm going to set this up really quickly, and I'm going to show you a little trick. Now, in this little trick, this is a trick that everybody should know about Canvas, just because you should think of Canvas as a website, not just a learning management system, right? A enclosed web space. Now, allow threaded replies, absolutely. I want kids to be able to threaded reply to themselves. Oh, one thing I forgot. Upload.
Not using threaded replies is super irritating, by the way.
Upload your
and very hard to follow.
types.
Because there's a few there's a few places where you can't do threaded replies and it's annoying. And it gets messy very quickly.
All right. So you can use the discussions as a place to have their prototype. So, hey, before I turn this in, I want my classmates to be able to look at my stuff. Hey, this is cool. That's cool. I would change the colors there. Hey, that's not a true thing about Harriet Tubman, whatever. Because the goal, for, in my opinion, Webs, is for everybody to get 100% on this. For everyone to be having an accurate depiction of the hustle. I don't care how long it takes you to do it. And I would rather your classmates and stuff kind of have those conversations before you turn it into me, before rather than me spending my weekend looking at 250 of these things saying, hey, why didn't you upload that thing that somebody could have caught before I was watching Law and Order and interrupted my hustle. Go ahead, Webs.
Also, it's a lot more realistic. Like, I ask for my colleagues' feedback all the time before I actually submit something. So, I mean, it's a very common practice that for some reason we don't do in school.
Because the goal is mastery, and mastery on the first time. Like if you don't do it the first time, obviously you don't know what you're talking about. Okay.
And the idea that the only person who can give meaningful feedback is the teacher.
This is also true, right? The power dynamics are very much at play. All right, I'm not going to make this graded. I'm going to allow kids to like in this situation. I'm not going to sort by likes. So if someone, the reason why I want the likes here and I generally don't do that is liking in this function or this scenario, in my opinion, allows students to say, "Hey, I really dig that design. Perhaps that's something I'm going to add to the designs that I'm going to deal with because it's organizational tool that they're familiar with from social media, et cetera, et cetera." My liking it is saying giving my seal of approval to things rather than a situation in which people are essentially I I don't want it to be liked. Generally, when I do the discussions, I don't add the like button there, Webs, because I don't want it to become a popularity contest. But in this sense, if there are aspects or characteristics of a certain person's designs that are very popular, I want students to have permission to say, I want to integrate that into what I'm dealing with, or that's something I'm going to keep in the back of my head for the next time I have to do a graphic arts project that's similar to this. Go ahead, Webs.
No, I'm good.
All right. I'm going to add that to the students' to-do list. I'm not going to add a date because generally I gave the kids 3 or 4 weeks to do their projects and stuff, but I'm going to add it to the to-do list so they know that's there. Now, here's the kind of trick that's not really a trick. Click that save button. Cool. So here's my deal there. I'm going to go back to my modules. All right. And right now, I have nothing there. I'm going to add an assignment. All right, cool. I've got it. Click that. Wonderful. If you wanted to build a rubric, hey, whatever, we can build the rubrics or whatever. Right now, I'm not going to build the rubric. Don't got enough time for it. But place the link or upload your poster here. It will be more descriptive if you would like or whatever. Points, I don't know, 10 points. So go on assignments. I can create a group of assignments if I wanted to. I'm going to display it as post submission. We're going to use an online. If they want to put a website URL there, they can do that. They can also upload. Great. Don't care how many attempts it takes them to do. This is not a group assignment. Peer reviews. If I wasn't going to have the kids down in discussion and stuff to deal with them, perhaps I would add the peer reviews as well. But this is always a possibility or an aspect you could add to your assignments. So that's there. All right. You can also add the anonymous grading situation there, so I don't see the kid's name. So if you're perhaps somebody who has some bias toward a certain individual or something, you can go and kind of mark for your own bias. I'm going to make sure everyone has it, but I'm not going to add any due dates. So make that save and publish. Right. Now, here's this deal here. Now, Webs, I'm going to go right up here, and we see that there's a URL for that assignment, yeah?
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to copy that URL. I'm going right back to my discussion. Great, that's my discussion. Oops, didn't want to do that. I'm going to edit this now. And usually if I was doing this, I would add my own example here at the top, kind of like, hey, this is what I would do. Some kids would use that. Some kids would say, no, hey, I don't want to use that at all. I'm going to turn in your assignment. So I'm going to highlight that. Click the link. Excellent. Save and publish. Now, when I click that link, it's going to take me right to that assignment. So I've now saved my learner a couple steps. They can do all their work here on this page. If I had different steps for them to build their deal or whatever, it's all there. And now when I go to that module, there's only one thing that's there rather than having 17 different steps or 25 different things that are perhaps going to have a situation there. And also, leaner is better. And again, I don't know what your experience, your attitude toward that is, Webs, but seeing 5, 6, 7, 25 different pages in a module is probably not going to motivate me to go through your module. If I see one thing that's there and I know that our protocols, I go to discussions, this is what we're doing this week, and I'm actually going to put that into my discussion, my discussion. So that's another kind of trick that we've looked at before. If kids know these are the things that we're going to do this week, these are the pinned discussions at the top, I click on that deal. Great. And my assignment is embedded there. A lot easier in terms of how to find things. In my opinion, Webs, what say you?
I think it's back to basics. Like that's Harry Wong, right? Like what are our procedures? It's just that our procedures are virtual and instead of in-person procedures. So if I know that my landing spot is always discussions, that makes my life a lot easier because I know exactly where I need to go. Um and if it's navigable the same way they would see a website, that also makes it very easy to figure out. You're relying on existing infrastructures and patterns in order to reduce their cognitive load so that it's easier for them to keep track of where they need to be.
And also, the opposite is also true, right? So I can go and copy this. I can go back into the module, go in, edit this as well, and say, you have forgotten what to do. Click here. Highlight that. I actually do course links as well. So now, both ways, I click there, it takes you right back to the discussion. And that's a lot less work than trying to build out 5 pages for your module or 3 pages or whatever it is. Keeps it nice and lean for you so you don't have to worry about very many things. All right, so make super, super, super easy way to have your course be concise. Excuse me. So you don't have to go and spend 25 million years trying to do these things. Some of the I looked at a course that was created by a publisher with a teacher, and it's just so much stuff. And I feel very sorry for the little kids who have to actually go through, the learners have to go through that. So that's how I would set it up. Now, Adobe Creative Express, I use it to build our YouTube thumbnails all the time because it's a pretty easy way to do those things.
Oh, it
Now,
used to be called Adobe Spark, by the way.
yes, it was called Adobe Spark. Um, I'm kind of, I don't like the name because it's
It's
just,
too wordy.
it's long. Yeah, Adobe Spark
Yeah.
is kind of like really to the point. But the reason why you want to get down with this tool, if you're a Clark County School District teacher, again, this is a free tool for you. All of the premium content is also free. Doesn't cost you anything. Inside of this deal, you can build, if you wanted to go and mimic Instagram stories, that Instagram stories is there. Facebook posts, your kids are probably not Facebook users. Instagram's probably going to be the jam. They will probably laugh at you if you talk about Facebook posts because that's how my kids laughed at me. Like you're old.
Yeah.
What's the thing? Boomer, okay, boomer or whatever. That was one of them's deal.
Yeah. I have an assignment I have to do for one of my uh qualitative methods class, and we have to go look at Instagram posts of college or high school students, and it came up in conversation, oh, can we use Facebook? And my instructor was like, well, we chose Instagram specifically because that's where the kids are. They are not on Facebook.
No, not at all. But you have all these really cool templates you can use. You have things you can do with images. Removing the background is really, really cool to take pictures that kids take of themselves and taking the backgrounds out and place them in different locales and stuff. Really, really cool stuff to do there. Converting things to JPEGs and PNGs is really cool. But you have video tools as well and also PDF tools now. These are the PDF tools did not exist previous to their changing of the name. So you can convert to PDFs and you can convert from PDF. So you got some PDF to picture or something, you want to take it out of that PDF form, this is the way you can do that as well. But the logo deal is something that's the first project I do every year with learners. I want you to create your own logo, your own brand. so that you always tag your information that's there. But before we even get to all that, at the very top of the screen, you're going to see that search all templates. You do not need to be someone who creates from scratch. If you say, I want TikTok templates, bada bing, there's our TikTok templates, Instagram story templates, etc., that all I need to do is replace the information that's there. So let's deal with DJ Tricks. I can click that. Again, the premium thing, you don't have to worry about if you're in Clark County School District because you get the premium for free. You have the relationship with Adobe in your school district to do that. All right. The assignment was the concert poster. So say I choose concert poster, and there are 3,000 tips. Look at all those. All right. I don't need to build this stuff from scratch. I can go and just take one of these. Oh, that's a David Bowie one. Let's take the David Bowie one. Hit that create.
It can also be an exemplar. Like, so we were
Bada bing.
talking earlier about you don't have to know all the things. You can just lean on these templates to give you an idea of things like high contrast text or colors that go together or where to place things or what types of fonts to use or how many fonts to use.
Absolutely. All right. And these things are already there. They're for you. They're there for free. You're going to have students that say, I'm going to take the template and I'm going to rock and roll with it. You're going to have students that say, no, I'm going to build it from scratch. You have this allows any level of learner to be able to access this higher level creative activity that they're going to want to do because this is making some this is thinking outside the box. All right. The other thing that's generally there is you can turn this in on Canvas. So if you look at the top right hand corner of that share button, I can build it and turn it right on Canvas. When I was in the classroom, there were some problems. So some kids did not have that turn it on Canvas option inside their account. If you don't have that, not a problem. You can download and upload it. But that turn it in on Canvas situation, the last time I checked, and I try to keep my posts kind of in the classroom a little bit, that was a functional piece of your Adobe Creative Cloud Express accounts. So share button, turn it on Canvas. They navigate right to the assignment. They can turn that right in with no problems. All right. So say David Bowie would be somebody that Harriet Tubman would listen to. I mean, I think the whole the Starman concept, that traveling, looking at the stars. I think you could make that argument that Harriet Tubman might want to, in the fact that he at the beginning of the '80s, right, fought for African American representation on MTV. So this is a person who had some, had a little bit of conviction in terms of equity and whatnot. So let's say we're not going to turn it in because that's kind of this is the simplest way to do it. I'm going to say I'm not going to do that. I didn't want to do that. Of course, I hit the button anyway. All right, cool. If a kid wanted to, you could share the link directly to the project as well. All right. So again, when you're creating your assignments, I always utilize the multiple ways for a kid to turn things up, either uploading it, linking it, etc. So if I hit that link button, I'm going to copy that link. And the first thing I'm going to do is I ask for students to reply here first, right? So, hey, check out my design. Also giving kids feedback protocols, all right, before you do these kind of things. What am I looking for? Are you looking for me to discuss? I mean, in Webbs, I send stuff to Webbs all the time. She sends it to me. What are you looking for? That's one of the questions she always asks. What are you looking for? And it's kind of like, oh, that's right. I have to kind of step back and say, what exactly am I looking for feedback on for this thing? But also giving the person seeking feedback the permission to say, your feedback was fooey, and I don't want to deal with that feedback. I like it the way it was. Go ahead, Webbs.
Yeah, I think part of that is it depends on where you are in your process. So the reason I ask that for you a lot of the time is if it's your very first rough cut, I'm not going to be nitpicky about the feedback that I give. If this is hey, I'm about to send this final in to wherever it's going to go, then I might get a bit more nitpicky about the feedback that I give. And it's always framed in or at least I try to always frame it in a way that's like, hey, I noticed this. Is this intentional? Do you want this way? because for me, maybe I find this aspect of it confusing or whatever. And yeah, you sometimes you take it and sometimes you decide, nah, I'm just going to keep it the way it is. I like it the way it is. Or maybe that change is just too time consuming for whatever you're submitting it for. But I try to give that feedback in such a way that it's, here's what I noticed, take it or leave it. Here's how it impacts my ability to process your message.
And so one of the things you would notice here was with the link. What would be a challenge here? But just linking my artwork.
I think the only thing I can think of off the top of my head is that it would take away from that, like it would take somebody to someplace else. So instead of the work being right there and me being able to look at it and type, look at it and type, I'd have to like open it in a new tab, put it side by side. It'd be a bit more work, a few more steps, in order to process what I'm looking at and then write feedback.
And so that's kind of where I'm going to go with it. That yeah, that's kind of a it's a time suck, and also especially if you're thinking about students on Chromebooks. Now you have this situation with this very small screen. I'm trying to go back and forth with. So I encourage the students to, if you do not send it from Canvas, to download it and upload it, or download it to your Google Drive and use the Google Drive LTI in order to place it here. So I'm just gonna take this here and I'm going to attach.
Also, that's a pretty like common task to be able to do too, is figure out how to download something and then how to upload it to wherever it's supposed to go. An actual work skill.
Yeah, so my attachment there. So if you're going to attach it, that's there on the screen. Now, you'll notice that attachment is small and I have to click on it. So there's that. So you can attach it, but you can also click your image. Concert. The only thing that's problematic with doing it the way I just did it by uploading it is, first of all, it gets super big, but also some of the Chromebooks don't like uploading those things that way. So that's that Google putting in Google Drive and using the Google LTI. That also works pretty well. But just essentially embedding it from Google Drive. But that's there. I can look at the entire thing, and because the threaded replies are on webs, first of all, I can like it. So if I say, hey, that's totally cool, I really dig what you did or whatever, but then I can reply, and that thread is going to be on my particular piece, not on, I will know that someone's commenting on my piece as opposed to Joe Blow's piece down the road or whatever. All right. So that's kind of a 15-minute version of using Adobe Creative Cloud Express. But the other thing is that Canva, and they do have Canva for educators. You just have to sign up with your educator email, but it's set up kind of the same way as Adobe Creative Cloud Express. You have templates, you've got video, etc. You just have to be able to. You would have to bring your students, if you're in Clark County School District, over and create their accounts and stuff inside there. Vista Create is probably my favorite. It used to be called Crello, but Vista Create is probably my favorite of all of them, just because it's kind of a dark horse. No one really uses it, but it is very interesting and super dope. But it's my favorite of all of them to utilize. And then Pixlr. I kind of mentioned at the beginning, photography. If you want your kids to start to play around with editing photography in a powerful photo editor, Pixlr is online, so it'll work with your Chromebooks no problems. Also, if you sign up with Pixlr with a school account, it gives you the premium Pixlr for free. So your students would have all of the toys and stuff to deal with. And we had kids that did a lot of really, really cool stuff. Let's see. Nope, that don't want to do
I'd
that.
say too, again, just give them these tools and let them figure it out.
Absolutely. And
You
also
don't have to be the master of all of these tools.
tools that you don't know anything about. Like ask the kids, hey, how do you do photography and stuff on your phone? What apps do you use? Like this was like a interesting project we had to do where students had to um, they had to be able to create a story from at least four different images and take out different aspects of them and edited them together. So mine was an astronaut had fallen off of his out of his spaceship because it was a mutiny. So he was actually pushed out, and so he's falling through space or whatever. And there, the astronaut is one image. That shooting star in the back is a different one. The moon is a different image, and then that background is a different image. So there's four different images that I kind of just cut every pieces out and kind of move them together. Because that's another way to storytell, right? Collages, photo editing, great way to storytell as well. Download this and upload them. You can start, kind of see the three pieces there. I molded that, kind of smashed that comment into the background as well. So those are my four pieces there, and students were able to go in and kind of deal with it. So again, you can't go wrong with discussions being kind of the hub of your course, in my opinion. Webs, the other pages are cool, but if you're not encouraging learners to converse, and then in that conversation ensuring that that's archived not only for people who are in the classroom but not for in the classroom, there has to be a default to what would someone who wasn't in the class, what abilities would they have to continue with this course if they miss 2, 3, 4, 5 days, the whole course. If some kid just transferred in, would I have to go and say, hey Bob, you're out of luck, Chuck, because I don't know what we did for the last 3 months because that's not actually archived anywhere. Which, again, in Las
Yep.
Vegas, in most big cities, kids are moving around constantly. Anything to add, Webs?
No, I'm good.
Indeed, indeed. We have fireworks out for some reason outside. I'm assuming the Super Bowl has concluded and somebody's team has won.
Is that why your puppers are so upset? It appears, according to Twitter, sorry, spoilers, so turn us off if you don't want to hear the results of the Super Bowl. The Rams have won their second Super Bowl franchise, Super Bowl in franchise history. Sorry.
the Rams. So it's going to get
So,
really crazy.
oh, that explains it.
Yeah.
My roommate texted me and said they're playing I Love LA.
Yeah, so it's going to be very ignorant out here in Las Vegas for the next couple of days because we have so many LA transplants.
Yay.
So it'll be very interesting being out in these streets. Um, yeah. The other thing is we have a series that I'm going to be constantly kind of adding to, and I totally forgot about this, Webs. Dope. So we're taking kind of like some of the concepts we're utilizing here on the show and kind of weaponizing them, I guess. Um, the very first deal, and there we go. Our socials are there and everything. Our very first episode here is using discussions, which we kind of spoke about tonight. There is a PDF for you to download, and then there's some videos kind of walk you through taking those discussions to that next level. It's dope.theintelligenthoodlums.com. This week I'll be adding streaming resources to that, and then the week after that, the Adobe and kind of that graphic arts kind of content. So take a look there. As always, join our newsletter via our website as well. And if you've got people who are kind of interested in expanding their Canvas game, we're your huckleberries, as Val Kimmer said in Tombstone. So we'll see you in 2 weeks. Congratulations to the Rams fans because I'm assuming you're gonna be, it, please like celebrate safely though. I always, like don't burn cars and don't like do, drink and drive and stuff like that. Celebrate safely, pretty please. We should go on top. And be nice to the Bengals fans as well. Like don't hate on them too much because it's not very often that they are even in this position. All right.
They're from Ohio. Feel sad for them.
And I forgot you're a Michigander. So yes, there is some disrespect there. So I don't have an outro sound yet. I'm gonna come with it. I think it's gonna be like a cackle or something, like a villainous cackle. I'm trying to get that down. So the next time we'll have that ending point for you. Have a great week, teacher people.
Can it be the evisceration ray sound like a pew pew pew?
That also might be good. Well, there are plenty of options when it comes down to it. Teacher people, enjoy your week, or try to enjoy your week. Pretty pleased with your going top. Be safe, and try to stay healthy. Given that the mask mandate is now not a thing, I did hear a lot from some of my teacher friends that a lot of the students still showed up with masks on Friday and whatnot. So perhaps that'll be something that continues. But who knows? Be safe out there. And if you need something, hit us up.
Bye, everybody.
God bless America. Catch you later.